Dan Corleone and Dan Ives. I like Dan Ives. And YouTube Pretty Lady over YouTube Finance. We're going to dance about that in a video chip here in a second. What I can do with Ben Eater, okay, is he's going to be saying words here in a minute and it's going to start to sound like quantum mechanics and some psychology trip of up, up, and down. Well, always down because this is going to be zero comparatively to Ben being the most positive of positive ones and me being just somewhere between 0 and 1 here.
So in the previous video, we hooked up this EEPROM, and we're able
Dan
to
Corleone,
hook some switches up
Dan
here
Ives,
to
YouTube
our address
Finance.
lines. And by setting these address lines, we can get different data out of the data lines. We could program it by setting the address that we wanted to program, and then setting, hooking these jumpers up.
Just I wanted to enjoy that moment for a second. All right. Anyways, inside of here, I wanted to bring this up. Look, sometimes the brain has a hard time figuring out schematics, right? I don't think he's going to give you a schematic in this necessarily. He gives you some of these schematics, which are chip schematics, but he's not really giving you the whole circuitry schematic in this one, I don't think. Or he may, but no. Okay, so, and he's going to make another system that programs into this. So we've already made that. That was in the last one. Now, let's assuming we did see a schematic here. How do you know what's up? How do you know, like, oh, so that's the way the energy comes in? Well, this is the way the energy comes in, and it's going up to the high line here. This breadboard is basically how they do that schematic. So this is important for other reasons. Dan Corleone, Dan Ives, YouTube Finance. All right, she's going to be running through here, and there's a uniform charge between these spots right here. 9 volt, 9 volt, and out to 4 volt. Or unless you need a charge pump, in which case then that's a different schematic in a department over here of a whole book manual, auto second, determining what that whole thing is. This whole fifth dimensional object, I guess. But anyway, so we got to figure it out. How do you know? It's like, well, there's my brain, right? Here's the brain, and there's down the center of it is your central cortex, your frontal lobe, your lobotomized section back here, and a button. So when you're looking at that schematic, and I'm saying I'm putting the chip on here, Dan Corleone, Dan Ives, and YouTube Finance, right? Just putting it in here. That's the little mad little electron, north, south, and a line between that, high and low, pole and 0. Somewhere is in there on a sinusoidal or a multimeter to tell me amps or current. It would be like looking at a particle and it having a corner that is subtly just like 1 pixel of a pixel different inside of here of that Feynman technique of how the electrons and the ionization shell just collapses onto this thing. Sorry, I'm tangenting off here. You're looking at that thing and see there's some different starts of it. So the schematics are gonna say, it's like, oh, well, there's a resistor here and there's a resistor here and it went through this thing over here and it did all that. So the reason I wanted to bring that up, Dan Corleone, is because Ben Eater's little finger here
To the EEPROM. But if we want to program more than just a few bytes,
he's going to talk about that RXF chip.
So
it's going to talk about that H1A1 chip. It's going to ask yourself why it does what it does, and therefore the purpose to make it valuable.
These address lines and data lines.
And here's what's really important. We're not rebuilding this, but we can. We can use a breadboard system like this to deconstruct this resistor and have it do diode parts or the configuration of diodes that you need it to be to get all that in such a way, none of the puzzles.
The Arduino lets us hook it up, from USB to our computer. Control and to
the typical grocery store is really a pay-to-play game. If you're a big brand, you get shelf space
here, and so it has this 8-stage shift register, which is value of.
So, and much in the same way, this computer chip right here is doing this same thing. Sometimes in the way that circuitry works to the diode or resistor, and on the other side of it there was a diode and a capacitor. They're going to look very different, but as you write this out, it works like a photon. Right? It has an HTTL slash, and then a body, a P, and then a backslash in to drop down a level or whatever. But basically all you need is the backslash, or the body and the backslash body and the ending of it to really say those 4 parts are necessary, and then you start going, right? And I want it to do something. I really know the capstone, but first things first, I have to do this. And as you do this, you just can't one pass it. You'll be coming back up, finishing a section, coming back down, finishing another section, maybe even skipping sections relative to how that does, because it's not running the whole page. Now you're opening up a window within that page, which could have been an option. And in organizing the field theory about what that is, it's a more complicated issue as far as it laying down and then having a high and low section for it, or charge-wise. So again, I just wanted to touch on that notation while we're bringing up the file, edit, or any other variances that have that same I hat to J hat, high charge to low charge kind of methodology to it, and what are some of the techniques, because there's a lot. There's wave function X, there's fx, there's just in general a delta b. The ending is relative to the first part and stuff like that. So it's stuff to consider and think about. Catch you on the next one.